Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us once again, where we are celebrating the International Coaching Week. And we have got few of the best speakers coming on this platform and talking to you about the coaching. It would have been really unfair in case we would not have spent some time to understand the impact of COVID on business continuity, on leadership, on communication. And that is where, on behalf of ex-monks, an ecosystem that brings to you world-class coaches and leaders for personal transformation and leadership development. It is my sheer pleasure to introduce to you two of the most reverend and the most respectable leaders in the industry to assist me while we take you through the launch of the leadership survey that we have recently concluded. Also, we are going to look at what is the impact of COVID-19 on business, on finance, on various industries. So before we get there, once again, let me just welcome you for taking time out to not only fill the survey, but also supporting us to be on here on this launch, as well as where we are going to share with you the findings of the survey. Let me just quickly share, let me just give you a context of why we thought of doing this survey at all. But before we get there, may I request you, let's take a pause for all those people who have lost their battle against COVID-19, not only in India, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about in the world. There are 275,000 plus people who have lost their lives because of this COVID-19. And when we're talking about this huge number, just look at the kind of impact it would have created, of course, negatively for their family members. So on one hand, most of us, we were making our own plans, we were making our own aspirations, we were making our own dreams, and yet universe had a very different plan for all of us. So let's take a 1 minute pause. Thank you so much. And now I'm just going to spend around 15 to 20 minutes on the key findings. Of course, it's a very detailed 16-page document that we'll be sharing with you. But let me just quickly take you through that, the broad key, the key takeaways that we have from this finding. And I'm going to take you through how is it going to, which are the top five industries which are going to get impacted, and what are the top 5 industries which are going to emerge as winners during these COVID-19 times. Less to say, but I think what's going to win during this time is again humanity, right? So let's take one step at a time. Let me just talk to you about when we are talking about leadership in the face of the COVID-19. Who's going to win the battle? Is it the technology? Is it the health? Is it some other industry, or humanity as a whole? You know, I often share with people, when you're not being able to identify, you're not being able to understand what's going on, always go back to basics. So let's look at, so when we started putting the survey together, we said, let's try and understand what are the broad 5 categories that we would like to look at the impact of COVID-19. So we said, let's look at what's the impact it's going to have on the business continuity. What's going to the impact of this as far as the communication and information sharing is concerned? What's going to impact of this as far as leadership is concerned, the personal impact is concerned, and also the remote working is concerned? Now, on one hand, we are talking about that we have been able to adjust ourselves working remotely. All of us are working on Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeetings, but I'm sure it has some or the other impact as far as the connectivity is concerned. So let's take another one step forward to talk about how many people came together to support us on this survey. And just to tell you the numbers, over 800 people came together to fill this survey. From 650 companies, people came together. 39 industries across India, they came together to fill this survey. Now, interestingly, while we were just analyzing the data, we realized that not only people from Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, but people like the small people like on the northeast, or people in the extreme south or extreme east or west, you know, all over the country, people came forward. It could be 2 people came forward from, let's say, Mizoram, all right, 2 people came from, let's say, or one of the other small cities. But the good part is people came forward. Now, if you look at the complete one, 78 represented the decision-making segment of business organization. So it's not that people who are only working the middle segment or the junior level, right? 38% of the respondents from C-suite level. So what it means is that you're going to invest time only when you feel it's going to impact you. And that is where these are the key findings. And when we realize that the people are taking it seriously and the insights that it's going to produce, for us, it was a quite insightful thing because it threw a lot of light on the way the business is going to show up. And we are not at all experts, so that please don't expect any advice from us. But at the same time, what we are bringing to you is experts in their own respective industries. So as I told you, Mr. Anup Vikal, who's the CFO, as well as he heads the legal and CSR department in Nayara Energies. He's a certified coach, one of the finest human beings I know of, one of the finest human beings. And when I called him up, he said, Gaurav, hey, it's a real cause. I'll be more than happy to assist you in this journey, right? And when a leader is saying that I'm going to assist you, it means a lot. It does not only tell you about the importance of this issue in today's world, it also talks about the humility that this gentleman brings in. Also, another gentleman who's going to assist me, I take the liberty of calling him as a friend. He heads the enterprise business for Tech Mahindra. Very active in looking at how are different streams going to impact the business, right? And that is what we are going to talk about. Krishna is going to bring us a perspective that how this COVID-19 is going to impact the business as such, right? So on one hand, we are going to bring in the impact of legal issues, or how is it going to crunch the finances, or how it's going to impact the GDP of the organizations or the country, right? At the same time, I'm sure it would have an impact on the business continuity as well. And that's where we have got two individuals who are going to bring different perspectives. So in case you've got any question, we have got amazing panelists, Anup and Krishnaji. So please do ask questions so that we can provide you some or the other hint, if not the 100% thing with surety, or if not any possible solution. But I'm sure we'll be able to get some better understanding of what's happening in the world as far as COVID-19 is concerned, right? So let's look at. So when we started to look at, there were a few good things that also this survey threw at us. As for the trust and the confidence in my leaders to protect us, right? 42% of the people said, no, we are really confident that we are trusting our leaders as well as we are trusting our organization that they are going to take a stand for us. Extremely confident. 38% were very, very confident. If you look at, there are only 2% of the people who showed like slightly confident. I'm not very sure if I'm going to get the necessary support and confidence from my organization or from my leaders. Now, I think this is what I often talk about when I say that when nothing wins, humanity does. When nothing wins, humanity does. And this is where we need to come together to fight this battle. When your people are expecting trust from you, when they anticipate trust and confidence from you, the question that we need to ask from ourselves is, am I being trustworthy here? Am I taking a stand for my team members? Right? I often share with people that one of the basic things that all of us look forward to in our life is some sense of certainty. So if you look at your relationship with your peers, your relationship with your colleagues, your relationship with your boss, or your relationship with your family members, wherever you don't see certainty, it impacts the relationship. So on one hand, they are explicitly coming forward and saying 80% of the people, they are either saying they're very confident, they're extremely confident. They're explicitly mentioning and sharing and expressing that, what, I trust and I've got full trust and confidence that my leaders are going to protect me. More or less the similar numbers also demonstrated that the leaders as well as the management, they are constantly in touch with these people in terms of communicating and making sure that they are visible and accessible to them, right? At the same time, similar number expressed that these people are providing the necessary communication and the information that is required in terms of the change of the policy or what are we doing right now. I think what is becoming more and more important is the need to be in transparent communication and share the information with your team members. Just to share with you, when this happened, it took me 7 to 10 days to understand what's happening and how should I actually show up in these challenging times. It took me 7 to 10 days. Even if you have read all the possible good books, even if you are a very positively you have a positive mindset, but when the challenge hits you, that's where it shows you your true character. As I'm telling you about myself, it took me 7 to 10 days to understand what's happening, because otherwise I was too much concerned, I was too much bothered that I don't know how am I going to manage this organization, how are we going to manage what's going on, how are we going to manage the finances, how are we going to manage as simple as you know the remuneration that we provide to our team members, the honorarium that we provide to our team members, right? It could be X rupees, it could be 10 rupees, it could be 100,000 rupees. But the point is, I was really concerned at the deepest possible level because I know it's going to hit the business. Now, this is where the organizations are, the people are saying that we trust our leaders almost like 80%, 38% plus 42%, that they are going to take a stand for us. Now, once people are trusting you so much, do you have any choice not to take a stand for them? Let's move on. Now, if you look at the other data, it says the challenges faced by leaders, right? Or the leadership competencies required in the times of COVID-19. So if you look at the challenges being faced by leader, it says figuring out how to evolve my core business. Now, one of the biggest challenge that people are facing today is how am I going to evolve my core business and understanding the impact of the same on the revenue. Now, if you look at whether you are a part of a retail industry or manufacturing industry, in case you're a part of um, e-commerce business or banking, or if you're a part of automobile sector, or you're a part of let's say health and wellness, right? Or pharma business. One of the biggest challenges that people are facing is how are we going to evolve the core business? Or should we actually start to look at some other businesses? But in case this is the core business, how am I going to evolve that business? And the second one is the impact it's going to have on the revenue. And the others are, if you look at 32% is what we're talking about, the working through the layoff or downsizing, supporting the current team virtually, and track team productivity and performance, right? So if you look at the challenge of the leaders as well as managers, primarily these two, 53% and 49%. Now, also, if you look at the challenge, the one of the biggest challenges it had on the primarily on the team leaders and managers, people who have not learned the art of managing their teams virtually. And that's where how am I going to support my current team virtually, right? Because when the people are sitting in front of you, it's a very different ball game to get the productivity out of them, to get the performance out of them. Now, when people are sitting in their own homes, and I'm no way saying we should not trust them, but the point is, as a leader, are you giving them the clear-cut KRAs, that these are the clear-cut KRAs that you have to deliver at the end of the day? And how are you measuring those KRAs at the end of the day? How are you making sure that people are delivering on their promise? Now, as much as I know this, right, one of my challenges is how to hold people accountable. Now, I know how to hand over the KRAs to people. I know how to follow up with them. But when it comes to challenging those people, it becomes extremely tough for me. It is extremely tough for me in face to face, and virtually it is becoming even more tougher for me. Why? Because now this time the challenge is how do you actually maintain a balance between the business priorities at the same time, keeping your heart alive, making sure that humanity wins over everything else. I often share with people that there's life beyond business. Now, when somebody is struggling at home with 10 different the chores that they have to do at the home front, right? At the same time, making sure that you have to work as well. What can you expect, right? Even if you're able to get, let's say, 80% of productivity, my personal take is we are moving in the right direction. If I look at my own journey in the last 1.5 months, there are instances where when I had to take calls sitting at a staircase or finding a small corner for myself so that the view is fine and does not distract me. And I'm sure your team members are facing exactly the same challenge. Now, these are the challenges for the leaders, right? At the same time, what are the challenges of my employees that I'm not been able to anticipate? What are the challenges of my um, team members that I'm not been able to anticipate, right? Now, when we ask the same question from the team members, right, what are you expecting as number one, number two, number three thing that your leaders should have, the competencies and the traits that they should have, right? What they mentioned is 66% of the people mentioned that what we're anticipating is empathy and building connection. Now, if you were to ask a question from yourself in the last 40 days, how many times have you spoken to your team members? Today we have got a team call on daily basis. The first thing that I ask is, hey, how is it going on? How's family doing? What kind of emotional state are you in? That's how we start. We start with a basic check-in, right? Again and again, I need to accentuate, when nothing wins, humanity does, right? When everything is going haywire, make sure that we keep intact the basic human values. And that's the reason why, when I was looking at who are the people that I should really call as panelists, I reached out to Anup, I reached out to Krishna, I reached out to uh, Amy. Amy, somehow she has not been able to be a part of this panelist, to be a part of this panel. But I knew that these are the leaders who are warrior monks, who know when to pick up, who know these are the leaders who know how when to pick up the sword of a warrior and how to maintain the peace of a monk, right? And that's the reason I'm bringing leaders. We are bringing leaders for you who can actually bring in the who could actually bring the balance between being aggressive as far as the business is concerned, but at the same time being human when the connection is concerned, right? The second thing is, 45% of the people said dealing with ambiguity. True test, the tough times, the challenging times, that's a true test of your character, right? What it tells you is something that has always been there deep within yourself, and you've never explored. You've never yet explored that, right? These are the times that tells you a very clear-cut indication, something that you've been neglecting or ignoring for the longest period of time, right? It tells you where is the biggest loophole in your business. Today, even we are struggling, right? And we are saying that how can we actually shift the business? So we are primarily into face-to-face. We have been known as a leadership boutique firm. So that's the challenge that we are facing. Now, what's telling us is definitely those areas where we have been struggling for the longest period of time, and we somehow either we did not or we could not invest time to make sure that we stay true to our purpose of creating possibilities and enabling transformation for self and others, right? It's a journey to bring in the shunya and the expansion, and that's what we have been talking about through and throughout. The third one is virtual work preparedness and leading virtual teams. We all know it. At least I'm struggling with that, and my assumption is, if not all of you, few of you are struggling would be that, or most of you would be struggling with that, right? Then the next one is transparent communication. It is, right? In case I'm not communicating with my team members, what is it that they can expect, or how are the policies of the organization they're going to impact them, or what they can anticipate or expect from whatever is going on. Of course, there's a breakdown as far as the communication is concerned or information sharing is concerned, right? How are we dealing with that? Let's take a next step. Let's look at the impact on business and challenging of working closely, right? Now, when we interviewed these people to understand that how is it impacting the business, right? It says that 55% of the projects have been delayed. 55%. So more than 50% of the business, so it's like half of the business have been delayed, right? Now, the other day I was watching television. It says that most of the, if you look at the real estate business, or it's the delivery of the e-commerce, or the manufacturing, or the retail, or as simple as banking, right? It's going to impact 55%. 55% of the projects are getting delayed. 16% are canceled, right? So if you look at our business, in the last 2.5 months' time, 4 of our major projects have been postponed. I don't know when are we going to deliver them. Four important projects, right? For all the small projects that we were handling, that's absolutely fine. We will be able to do that, if not today or tomorrow. But 4 important projects that we were about to initiate, they have been postponed, right? 53% people spoke about it has reduced the cash flow in the organization. 34% of people said difficulty in catering to the clients. And we all know that. We all are suffering from that. In case you are a client to somebody, or you are a provider to somebody, right? Or you are a vendor to somebody. In both the cases, or you are being a partner to somebody, in both the cases, it is impacting the business, right? Challenges. At the same time, we also spoke about what are the challenges that you are facing as far as working remotely is concerned, right? One of the biggest challenges people spoke about, the scattered focus or the work environment. There are several WhatsApp messages and the videos which are floating in the market today, where people are talking about that while they are talking, while they are on phone. Right now, I can tell you that we have almost like what, all the people that we have, I can assure you that 50% of the people, they would be checking their phones right now as well. Is it wrong? Absolutely not. But the point is, it has a direct impact on the overall focus that we are bringing on table right now. 41% people said that work environment, it is getting impacted, and the resource availability. Just to tell you the truth, as far as our organization is concerned, we were struggling, right? We have got 3 designers in the organization, but we could not provide the laptop and we could not provide the desktop. We could not get it delivered to their houses because of the lockdown, and we had to suffer. Most of the designs, most of the proposals, most of the approach notes that we were supposed to deliver, or most of the other documents that we were working on, they got delayed because of the lack of the resources available. I'll just take a pause here. In case you've got any question, please type it in the question answer round, or in case you've got any uh, comment, please write it in your chat box. We are just collecting them, and then I'm going to ask all these questions from our leaders. Okay, so there are some brilliant questions, but we're talking about how to keep the faith and how is it impacting. So we are going to address that, and we have got experts who are going to address this. Let's move on. Let's talk about the communication to provide clarity, guidelines, groundwork, and managing progress, right? So when we're talking about, as I mentioned, that 43% of the leaders, they are constantly in touch with them, and they are providing the necessary work that the organization is doing, and the way the work is getting progressed in this domain. Communication gap in working remotely with my team. Now, this is really interesting, right? 66% of the people mentioned that there's a lack of personal connect. As I mentioned, that there is anyways a lack of as far as the distraction is concerned. So let me just go back to this slide when we're talking about the scattered focus, right? Working remotely. But at the same time, 48% that they've got the scattered focus. At the same time, if you look at this one, 66% are missing the personal connect. And that is where it's becoming more and more important for all of us as individuals to ensure that we are in touch with our leaders, right? 36% of the people, they are talking about the distracted attention. 28% talking about the selective listening. I'm sure you all would have observed that. And right now, if you look at this call as well, there would be 10 different scattered things that there would be 10 different things that would be asking for your attention, right? There would be 5 things that you might be missing because that they might not be relevant to you. Or when we're talking about the lack of personal connect, connection is important, and that is what is missing when we are working remotely, right? However, that's what the reality is today. You know, unless we accept that, we'll not be able to move out of that. We'll not be able to get over that hurdle, right? Now the question is, am I living in a resentment mode? Am I living in resisting mode? Or am I willing to accept that there's nothing much that we can do? Now the question is, what is it that you can do that would allow you to be a better leader? What is it that's going to help you, that's going to allow you to be a better team member? Now let's look at the how is COVID-19, which all industries are going to get impacted? Which are the 5 industries which are going to get impacted because of COVID-19, right? Let's start with the travel and transportation. We all have already experienced that, right? So whether it's aviation industry or the Olas and the Ubers of the world, or people who are using the bus or the train or the railways or any kind of transportation, it's going to get impacted, right? In fact, if you look at the travel and transportation or manufacturing industry, these 2 industries are going to get impacted in a very, very sad manner, right? Whether it's supply chain or it's providing them the raw material, or making sure that you have people who can work for you. I was just in the morning, I was just reading some report and talks about where the CMD of Raheja Group, as well as a different real estate company, where they said, despite the fact that we are trying to provide everything possible to all the workers, we are finding it a huge challenge to keep our team members in place, to keep our workers in place. They are not sticking to that, and that's one of the biggest challenges that these people are facing, right? Now, if you look at the next one, the hotel industry, no idea what's going to happen. In fact, I was supposed to travel in the month of March end, and I had to cancel all my tickets. I had to cancel all my stay arrangements, and that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we are going to face, right? So these are the 3 industries that's going to hit really badly, really badly. And then the next one is automobile. Automobile industry was anyways going through some challenging times, right? For the last few years, the automobile industry has been going through challenging times, whether we talk about the commercial automobiles, or as well as the um, the commercial or as well as the passenger category, right? Both of them are going through some really challenging times. We were expecting there's a hope that we are going to move to the electric high or the hybrid model, and but again because of this, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the automobile industry. And because wherever, if you look at the retail industry as well, wherever you will find more than, I mean, people who are coming together, there's a deep level of fear, there's a deep level of concern that we all are experiencing. Now, these are the five industries which are going to experience the biggest blow. Now, let's look at, on the contrary, as they say, that every dark side has a positive side to that. There's always a silver lining to any dark cloud, right? Now, let's look at what are the other five industries that are going to experience. They're not only going to fight, but they're also going to thrive because of COVID-19. The health and the pharma, of course, we are already seeing that, right? Health and pharma is going to grow like nobody's business. When I'm talking health and pharma, I should really mention about wellness industry as well. Health and wellness industry, like the medical equipments, the pharma, um, the hospitals, or the health and wellness, as we're talking about. The spirituality is going to touch the very different level as well. I often, few days back, I was having a conversation with another leader in the industry where we were saying that, what, everything that we thought is a winning strategy for any of the individuals or any of the organizations, right? This COVID-19 and this pandemic has taken over those winning formulas for everyone, right? Something that was working for you till 40 days back, it's not going to work anymore for you. Now, if it's not going to work for you, then what is it that you're willing to do about that, right? And also, I personally feel now, because we are talking about the five emerging industries, I personally believe that these are some really amazing times for the human mankind, right? Why? Because of course we are going to experience some kind of blow. It's going to take away many lives. It's going to hit several organizations. It's going to hit several industries. But at the same time, these are the times when we can actually ponder on, what am I doing as an individual? What are those core values that I'm going to stick with no matter what? How can I stay human in these times? How can I support my neighbor? How can I support my family members, right? Rather than looking at finding people who are getting depressed, right? This is the time primarily for coaches and people who are practitioners of wellness. These are the times to extend your support to people. The insurance industry is going to grow once again, right? The next one is the online and the gig economy. People are, let's accept it, right? Most of the organizations, they are going to lay off thousands of people. Let's accept it. Now, these are the times where you'll find the gig economy to work, right? Do this thing for me and I'm going to pay for that. So that's where the most of the freelancers, they're going to grow. But the challenge is, in case you have not yet experienced that, it's going to hit you badly as well, because we need to win trust from our clients as well, right? And that is where my personal request to you is, be very, very kind to your team members, because these are the times where they are going to test your leadership. This is the biggest test of leadership. These are the biggest test of character. The next one is share market trading, right? Most of the people, they are going to make millions in years to come, provided you have an understanding where to invest when. How, I really don't know. I don't know anything about share market trading, and neither I'm going to invest there. Renewable energy. Few days back, I had the honor of talking to Mr. Manoj Kohli. Mr. Manoj Kohli is the country head for SoftBank. He was the CEO of Airtel at one point in time. I was just talking to him and we were discussing some things. And I was just wondering, I said, what do you think post COVID-19? Which are the industries which are going to see emerging? And he said, energy sector. Energy sector is going to grow, right? Anything which is directly, which can actually pull us back to our basics, that's going to grow. Let's move to the next level. 3 top competencies which people are expecting from you is empathy and connection, dealing with ambiguity and transparent communication. So these are the few things that I wanted to share with you. Now, my request to you is, let's bring all the questions that you have, and I will open the dice for both Anoopji as well as Krishna ji to please come forward and share their understanding of the way the whole world is going to show up in times to come. So here I've got few questions. So may I request Krishna sir If you can just come forward, Anup sir, if you can just come forward, let me once again welcome both these individuals, both these leaders. As I mentioned, Anup is the CFO with Nayara Energy. He heads the CSR as well as legal for Nayara Energy. One of the finest human beings I know of, somebody that I go back to. Yesterday we were on a call and I mentioned that there are two individuals that I go back to, and Anup is one of them. And I was talking about the Anupam. So these are the two individuals that I go back to when I need some support, whether it's my personal crisis in my personal life, whether it's crisis in my personal life or in my professional lives. Somebody who's extremely humble, somebody who knows the business, somebody who's really sharp. The second gentleman is Mr. Krishna Gopal, popularly known as KG. You'd find him very active on LinkedIn. Somebody who's got a very thorough understanding of the way business is evolving globally, right? Another certified coach. Both these individuals are coaches and thorough professionals. Such a pleasure to have you both, sir. Thank you so much for honoring this request and taking out your precious time. Now, here are a few more questions. Before I ask you questions, in case you would like to share anything with our audience, the platform is open for you. Anup sir, you can begin, and then I'll request Krishna sir. I think Krishna sir is adjusting the mic right now. So in the meantime, Anup sir, you can start.
Can you hear me, I hope?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Great. All right.
Anup sir, over to you.
Gaurav, thank you very much, and good evening to all the participants and attendees. I hope you all are safe and keeping good health. You and your family members, please take care. These are strange times. But these strange times are what, just to add to what Gaurav said, essentially are going to put the spotlight on everything that corporates were known for and everything that the individuals were. So if we had some strengths as companies, if we had some strengths as individuals, they're going to be very, very highlighted. At the same time, if there was some weaknesses that we had in our companies, in our fundamental structures, in the industries, or as human beings, those are also going to get very prominent because the spotlight is going to be on. In simplistic way, if I have to tell you about my company is a refinery in Jamnagar, a large one. It was the largest deal ever in India, owned by Russian government, partly by Geneva traders, and so on and so forth. We produce oil and gas, have about close to 5,500 fuel stations across the country. So we are right in the middle of the pandemic, as you can well imagine. And for us, the challenges started much before. Given that there were sanctions on Iran, who were producing and giving us 40% of our crude, and we were the largest lifters. Our shareholders owned the oil fields in Venezuela with the Maduro regime. That got sanctioned in February, so our oil disappeared. So we were anyway battling this out. So other than COVID, what we face is the uncertainty of the oil war, which is predicated on greed and ego. And what our shareholders are part of that war as Russia's one of the balancers to the OPEC game. In this kind of a context, when COVID and shutdown started in nearly the third week of March, we were already faced with a year end. And as finance folks, you can well imagine, with a company with a 5 billion debt, 13 billion revenue, we had all the challenges that it comes. Covenant testing for debts happened at the end of the March period. Of course, we managed this well. The first priority was liquidity. As in life, as in business, always have loads of liquidity. So we managed to raise 6,000 crores in 10 days, and we were able to tide over. The teams managed to do book closing by 6th of April remotely. Great, the books were done. But some of the things that started getting more pronounced and noticing is how businesses were operating and how we were operating. 4 or 5 things that I think are important I'd like to share for the session today is one, as a business, we will need to earn our right to do business. This right to earn the business is going to be dependent on what we are doing for our communities in which we operate. Nayara operates in 15 villages in Jamnagar, Vadina, and these villages are intrinsic part, and we are residents of these villages. So all that we could do for them, not just now, but going forward, is going to be critical for every business. So it's no more a lip service, no more a percentage spend. It is to do everything that's necessary so residents of our villages and our districts thrive, save, are safe, and are taken care of in whatever fashion that we would take care of our families at. So that's very important. That's how we're going to get the right to continue to do business. Important for employees and for companies is going to be first priorities on outcome versus output. And this is very important because output meant we were measuring FTE, full-time employee resources, part-time employees, consultants, so on and so forth. Doesn't matter. Outcome matters. So if I need liquidity, my treasury team manages to get it done, whether they work 1 hour or whether they work 20 hours, it's no concern. So organizations will focus on it, clients will focus on it, and everybody will look at outcomes versus output. That's number one. Second thing is flexibility versus schedules. People have been used to logging in or locking in at 8, 8:39, leave at 5:36. Great partitioned life. We had office, we have work, and yeah, we manage our life between the two. Things seem to be mixing up. Organizations which are focused on outcome, which is all of them, are going to be not really concerned about scheduling. So if you receive an email at post 6, are you going to respond to that work immediately and ensure that the outcome's delivered? Or are you going to wait for the next day to log in? That's going to be the differentiator between employees who will be outcome-based employees versus output-based employees. Third is going to be comply versus confirm. There was a lot of confirmation in the offices to each other by the way we behaved, by the way we dressed, by the way we spoke, by the way we talked, all of that. That confirmation is going to be irrelevant. Complying to lay down processes, guidelines, statutory acts, everything's going to become very, very important. Again, in the genre of outcome rather than output. On leadership development, it's going to be very important how we move our people from some of the old ways of doing work, some of the old ways of what was thought to be success to newer ways of success, like outcome, flexibility, comply. Lastly, but not the least, most important skill, which I have started noticing, is listening with empathy versus talking. Office, there was a lot of space, a lot of time, a lot of talking, a lot of informal chat, formal chat, half the messaging was done informally. All of that isn't available anymore. Listening is going to be the biggest skill, and I'm noticing it more and more. I was talking to Gaurav just 2 days back. I've had a person, a junior most guy, who lives in a one-bedroom hall with his in-laws. Now, when a manager talks unpleasantly to him, he's shattered. On top of COVID, on top of being locked down, his manager spoke to him in a tone which was not right because this impacted now his standing with his in-laws and his family and everything else. So I receive a call from him and I've got to listen and I've got to understand and I've got to empathize. Every day, I was telling Gaurav, I spend 1 hour at the end of the day for half an hour call each, at least listening to two people just talk. As a coach, the skills that we learned from Gaurav and Erickson come in great handy, but more and more leaders will need to start building the skill of listening versus just talking and instructing. So I think that's really my two bit, Gaurav. Maybe on the industries and sectors, maybe we can talk a little later because we have a little bit of an insight. We've been tracking consumption in China, tracking consumption globally, and maybe those are things we can discuss. For the moment, I think these are.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much for these beautiful insights. Always a pleasure listening to you. Thank you. Krishna, sir, KGG, over to you.
Yeah, sorry. I don't want to, I'm Krishna Gopal from Tech Mahindra. I don't want to talk much about the firm, but in recent times, we are kind of these speeches and all are overflowing and coming out of our ears, right? Of how what's going to happen in COVID, post-COVID, how do you do it? Hum honge kamyab, rara, and all of that, right? I mean, I run a daily show called The Prime Time at 9 within Tech Mahindra, which it's a daily show from 9 to 10. And yesterday we had Ganesh Natarajan come. 2 days back we had Shiv Kumar of erstwhile Pepsi and now with Aditya Birla and so on and so forth. Today we have some private equity people coming. So we hear this all the time. So I don't want to, go on pontificating on this, but there are lots of questions that I see. So if you want me to pick up any one or two and, talk about it, then very happy to do that.
So I'll be picking up all the questions. In the meantime, if you can just share your top of the head views on COVID-19, and then we'll get into the question answer round, sir.
So I think top of mind is that this is something unprecedented. Okay, so my son is there. He's about 32 years old. It is for him like he's been bombed out, right? World War. What's going to happen? We really don't know. We really don't know. See, the best scenario is Adar Poonawalla succeeds and Oxford University succeeds and Italy succeeds with its antibodies. And in about 3 months' time, we are back again, like Munna Bhai, right? Ye ladki gayi, dusra ladki, right? So Munna Bhai, we're back again, we are doing whatever we need to do. Uh, I hope that happens, right? In which case, the recovery will be very quick. Though some industries will be very badly affected, travel and tourism, banking for sure, all small businesses, etc., will be very badly affected. Uh, I come from the IT industry. TCS has made an announcement that they will not go back to a complete work from office, isn't it? 25 by 25 is what they have said. So by year 2025,
Yeah.
only 25% of their workforce will work from the offices, which means what's going to happen to all those huge campuses, the food courts, the swimming pools, the basketball courts, right? The lifestyle people have been used to, the buses. So suddenly, if all companies, and which means if TCS does that, all companies will likely follow suit, which means what happens to Hinjawadi? What happens to Whitefield? What happens to Magarpatta? And what happens to all those pubs that are there? All those Xerox shops and those restaurants and those saloons and whatever it is, isn't it? So that's the dark side. Of course, the bright side is if only 75%, if only 25% is required to come to office, only 75% are going to stay and work from home. I will work from Amravati for all I care. I will work from Hubli. Why do I have to come in Bangalore and stay at the other end of the city for a cheap rent and work from home? I'll work from Hubli. I'll work from Mysore, right? So if Hinjawadi goes down, maybe Amravati goes up, maybe a Jalgaon goes up, because suddenly a lot of people are going to work from there and earn a reasonable amount of money to and then spend it in Amravati and Jalgaon, right? So I think these are some of the things that are on the top of the mind, but how that will pan out, I really don't know. But the immediate term, there will be severe impacts. All the companies will have to cost correct, isn't it? A restaurant will say, boss, it's a write-off. Maybe I'll only make sales for the last 3 months, and 9 months, nothing is going to happen. Some assumption, he has to make some assumption, right? Some other company might say, 2 months, 3 months, no sales, 9 months, something will happen. Maybe 40% of my sales will happen. And then therefore they have to cost correct for that. And cost correct is a very nice English word. It means slashing, isn't it? It means that, your fixed cost needs to be removed. And in an IT company, the fixed cost is people. A lot of it is people. So therefore, what you said about people not being permanent, but being on a contract all the time, that one company, 30 years, Titan watch at the end, is going to go away. I mean, it's anyway gone away to a large extent. But, HMT watch, my time. But now, it's going to be one person, many companies. And that ability, that multi-skilling, that ability to stand the course, high enthusiasm, optimism, and Gaurav, to take your inputs, that on coaching, ability to be within, the ability to be still, all of those are going to be very, very valuable skills. I'll pause here, and then maybe we'll go from here.
Thank you so much. Now I'll start. So I've categorized the question. There are a lot of questions around what's going to be the positive impact, the negative impact, and what are employers doing, the impact on specific departments. So let me just start with something which you think is going to, how is this going to impact positively to people? So anyone can begin. Let's start from Anup and then we'll go to KG.
Well, yes, Gaurav, like I said, if people start focusing and working on outcomes, clearly it's going to be a big positive, right? and I strongly believe that a lot of wastages, Krishna mentioned about costs, but other related wastages and efficiency will also get corrected. So that's the biggest positive that I can see. The second thing is, like Krishna said, if people are going to be remotely located, which is the reality, then there's so much more on the personal side that people will find in terms of fulfillment. They don't need to live in a small place in a big city, but can live in places that they like and take care of their personal obligations that much better. So I think those are two very big things. Thirdly, I think people will tend to get more structured in how they approach their work and their life.
Yeah, thank you. KG, one question for you. How would the employers make it possible for employees to have the right environment? What are your thoughts on this?
Frankly, we're all guessing now. I don't know. I really don't know. One school of thought is this 25%, whether 25% will happen like bingo, snap of the fingers, I doubt. A thought that is, I saw a video of the Mahindra Igatpuri plant where, they have shown how people are walking in, only 30% of the staff, the workers are coming in, and how they are desanitized and social distancing is maintained, workspaces have been kept separate and so on, right? We are in this learning phase, Gaurav, right? I think when we open up and people start to come in, there will be many issues, right? I mean, how will they sit in the canteen? How will they go in the lift? How many people will be together in the lift? I mean, not everybody can climb stairs, 12 floors, right? Bathroom, and then then suddenly a few cases will come in a company, and then that facility will be locked down. Right, then the BMC will land up, or whoever it is will land up and lock it down. So then you will kind of go back and forth. Okay, so you think, wow, it started, we can go and all that, and then something will happen, they'll get locked down. So this phase of up and down, the V or the W, will keep happening. That's one bit. The other bit is, see, today when you really look at it, sitting at home, all those webinars on work-life balance have become zero. Nobody talks about it. Everybody is training at the leash to go home or to go to office, right? So I think so it's a very nice lesson to everybody that whatever you are getting in office, that coffee banter, that eating the lunch together with somebody, going for a walk, postprandial walk, all of those are so important now that you realize, right? So I think it is not about what company can do. I think it is about how we can cope. Company can only do so much, because if we are as much, they are as much, probably, I'll use a strong word, clueless on how the things will pan out as any one of us are.
Makes sense. Thank you. So Anup, here is a question for you. Anup sir, I'm taking the liberty of calling you Anup.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Anup, here is a question. Now, on one hand, that KG is talking about, that to some extent people are clueless. Let's accept it, right? Another deeper question that I have for you is, considering the remote working that people are talking about, right? So we have already seen in the reports that people are distracted, right? People are finding it really tough. People are missing the connection. In this kind of scenario, what's your understanding of what is the right environment in this kind of arrangement that we have with our team members?
Well, I mean, I've got a pretty simplistic view to everything in terms of what I mentioned as the first point. If you're getting distracted, you're getting distracted. As Krishna said, companies are clueless. They aren't going to do really very much for you. But they're going to be, the expectation of the outcomes are not going away. So I'll keep emphasizing. If you get distracted and your outcomes impacted, sorry. So very high focus, like that eye of the fish focus on deliverables and outcome is going to be the key winner for everyone. Whether it's companies for their client or whether it's employees for the company, everybody is going to be focused on outcomes. We just finished a board meeting. Most of our board members are in different parts of the world. We had 3 days of board meeting online. Suddenly made me wonder why we were doing those board meetings where there was this gala dinners and so on and so forth. The costs were substantially saved. Everybody flying business class world over is gone. But the deliverable outcome of that board meeting did not change. Nothing's changed. The actions are still the same. Deliveries are still the same. Future plans for developing the assets are the same. Everything's the same.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this question. There are several questions, but I think this question, since you have already started talking about the cost, so here is this question. In the current scenario, how companies should review the cost structures to have competitive edge, ensuring empathy to all stakeholders?
Unfortunately, Gaurav, that's a difficult balance. Some of the stuff Krishna just alluded to, I'm going to re-emphasize. Costs are fixed and variable. Industries where the fixed costs are high will certainly take a little bit of hit on the empathy factor, because when the fixed costs are high, those are the first to go. A lot of employees, based on their productivity, we've realized now that I don't need the kind of office. Just before COVID happened, we were hunting for a new office. In the last 30 days, my conversation with my people in HR, admin, others is, of course, we aren't going to take the new office, but at the same time, do we still need the entire existing office spaces, or can we do lesser? Actually, the point that TCS made.
Yeah.
But said so, I'm suddenly realizing that some of the people who are exceptional performers are delivering the outcomes with lesser number of people needed. So that question, while it's the big elephant in the room, sooner than later is going to be on the table for all managements to look at. Overhire? Did we overhire for inefficiencies? Did we overhire for trying to give that nice work-life balance, which ideally should have been work balance? So those are the kind of questions which are going to come in a very big way now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you so much. So KG, I'm going to ask the next question from you.
Yeah.
It says, what do you think, what's the impact of this on marketing and business enterprise business?
Okay. I mean, that is something that we are grappling with now. Our industry is long lead time.
Krishna, you're on off video. If you can just put your video on, please.
Okay, hold on. So, as I said, we are in this long lead time, high value selling situation, right? IT services companies, where the assumption was always that you need to be schmoozing and golfing and going around and meeting the clients and different stakeholders and so on, and suddenly nobody wants to meet you. Right? And social distancing and so on. So one of the things that we are doing, so from the point of view of marketeers, you need to become far more savvy. Your persona on the social media needs to become real and very credible and value adding. And the good side for that is people are available, isn't it? People are available at home, even though they may have not had a haircut like me, but people are available at home. And the people are available to take your calls. So if you're able to approach them credibly and not by sending, inane messages that I hope you are safe and kind of, messages, but if you're able to approach them in a very credible manner, people will talk to you and you'll be able to take the relationship forward and make deeper relationships. That's the positive side of this virtual world.
Okay. And here is a question for both of you now. So let's hear from Anup to start with first, and then we'll again come back to KG. So Anup, how and where do you so focused when there's so much of ambiguity? So how can one be so focused as a leader when there's so much of ambiguity around?
Well, I think nothing's changed on that count from earlier. Just the nature of ambiguities have changed, right? We still have immediate deliveries, we have medium-term deliveries, and we have long-term deliveries. There's lesser focus on long-term deliveries because long-term is uncertain as of today. I'm sure if this becomes a norm, then there'll be newer long-term plans that will get put into place. For the moment, and I can talk of today, tomorrow, the priority is on short and medium term. I used to produce a rolling 12-month and rolling 60 months plans and outlooks. Times have changed. We now produce 4, 9, and 12 months. So 4, 9, and 12 weeks. So I'm producing outputs which are 4, 9, and 12-week outputs. I mean, so those are the kind of things that are happening. Our industry, the crude prices are changing by hour. The dollar rupee changes by hour. For us, both things are highly volatile at this stage. We produce now our short term's 4 weeks. medium terms 9 weeks, and long terms 12 weeks. So that's really how the game's changing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have a long-term plan intact.
Yeah. You know, people have been talking about VUCA world for the longest period of time. I think these are the VUCA world that we have been talking about and getting ourselves prepared psychologically as well. So, KG, what's your take on this? How and where do you so focused when there's so much of ambiguity? As I mean, you not as in you, but as a leader, how can one be focused to deal with this kind of ambiguity?
Okay, let me give some perspective here, right? That this time is like what it was in during the World War II, and you don't know when the truce is going to happen, when it's going to win, right? When Germany is going to be defeated or Japan is going to be defeated. Uh, bombs are falling around, and people are dying by the dozens and so on. And at that time, somebody is asking a question: what is your, why is things so uncertain and VUCA world and that kind of stuff, right? It's like a question asked at that point in time, because there is no end in sight, right? People are, experimenting, they're locking down and hoping that just it'll go away and somebody like a Hollywood movie will come and whistle and say, all clear, the bomb has been diffused, you can all come out now. No, that's not there. So it's a little difficult. I mean, I'm being a little harsh. It's a little difficult time. So therefore, to expect that everybody knows the answers is a bit of a problem. The only thing that people can do is to make some great assumptions based on what they can see now, and then act on the basis of those assumptions. Assumptions have to be very strong, right? The assumptions are different for different industries. What is your industry? That is number one, that assumption part. Number two is, are you able to pivot, right? Are you able to completely change? Like, for example, if no hiring is happening, I'm just taking an example of a hiring agency. Okay, an hiring agency does hiring for, for companies. If no hiring is going to happen, then can I be just waiting for the day hiring will start, or should I pivot as an example to say that I will help candidates create great resumes and get great interview experiences for a fee? Completely pivoting. I'm going back to the customer's customer and making that customer as my customer. That's a very, shallow example. But there could be many other such examples that you can think of. How do you pivot, right?
No,
So another
KG, I think
example.
it's a very valuable input that you're giving. So these are the
Yeah.
times where you might not be able to extract money or get the business from your client, but these are the times where we need to build trust. There are so many companies where we are doing, where they are saying, Gaurav, can we do a workshop or can we do a webinar for our team members? Let us know how much are we going to charge you? How much are you going to charge us? And I said, no, it's absolutely fine. We are going to do it as a gift for you. So.
Yeah, very good. See, the other example, someone spoke to me, Kamal Babbar, thank you very much for your compliment. The other example that I gave, that I want to give is, the mom and pop shops in Pune, for example. A lot of mom and pop shops who are closing down because they are, the food delivery, like the thali, he will supply only to Kothurud area and all that, right? And suddenly they said, okay, we'll close down. Now my shutters are down, but can I do delivery? So suddenly they are finding delivery boys. Suddenly they are becoming more delivery people to nearby areas, number one. The bigger one, for example, we have a Bombay canteen in Bombay, right? A big guys, okay? Sharad Seth's son and all that, right? Big guys. Now they are doing delivery. Now, what is the value add that they can do? Maybe they can put cameras in their kitchen and say, how is your order getting prepared? Would you not like that in COVID times? Watching your order getting prepared, watching your order getting packed, and then of course, thereafter Zomato and Swiggy deliver it. Right? Then you know from your Google Maps where they are standing. Pivoting, right? A Bombay canteen, where in Parel and all that, where they are just, it's a high flying place, shut down. But they're pivoting their business. Those are some examples that I can think of.
Beautiful. There's another comment from Manish Ji. It says, I think a new facelift will be required to start things, get done from scratch pad. New avenues, possibilities will be required as per the changed world, where courses like sustainable urbanization will be in demand. What should be done to prepare our educational institutions to cater to the needs? Anyone can
I
address
don't know.
this.
Again, see, my wife is an academic. She's a principal of a college. She's at this point in time sitting in the other room trying to grapple with how do I get an examination done on Zoom. Now, it's so difficult, right? There's another friend of mine whose wife is a professor with Thakur College of Engineering. She actually got the examination done, but whether it was effective, question mark. Uh, so maybe trust, maybe open book examination, maybe it's the time now to test concepts rather than by rote, which means a lot more hard work for the professors and academia to create those case studies, create those questions that have no straight answers from page 48 of the textbook, right? So somebody will have to understand the concept. Now, all that is very easier said than done. In a
Yeah.
2000 people college like this, how many people have PCs at home? I doubt. Maybe they have a smartphone for sure. Can that be used? So I said more questions than answers. I'm sorry that I wish so. Everybody wants a SCSC world rather than VUCA world, right? SCSC is simple, predictable. I forget the expansion of that,
Yeah.
but opposite of VUCA. So we want the opposite of VUCA, but the fact of the matter is VUCA is even more stronger now. Are we at the end of our this one, Gaurav?
Yeah, another 8 minutes, sir.
All right.
So here's a question for Anup. How can we improve the productivity of the team in the virtual meetings? Now, just imagine there's a virtual meeting going on. How can we enhance the productivity there? How can we improve the productivity there?
Very, very clear, focused agendas, very clear, focused conversations. So start off with what is to be achieved. Have everyone speak up and debate, discuss, close with action points. I think as Indians, we've been used to repeating a point that one person's already made in different tones, tenors, with different emotions. I think that's irrelevant. So materially, just looking at what is needed to be said and having heard it, taking hard actions before the meeting's over and firming up hard action plans with firm timelines. So I think those are the ways to do it. Yeah.
So there are two questions now we are going to address since both of you are coaches. So let's start with KG first. What kind of support are the leaders looking out for from the coaches?
Oh, yes. Again, let me talk from a very contextual sales world point of view. I mean, you address me as somebody who's now doing enterprise business. I've moved on away from that role. I'm doing sales enablement now. And my job is to make the people more productive, better versions of themselves, the salespeople. So what's going to happen? And that's so very difficult in a very remote world, right? I mean, you can get them into a room 9 days, put them through a program and send them back, though that doesn't fundamentally change behaviors forever, but it does have a much lasting effect than doing it virtually. In a virtual mode, Gaurav, I believe, I honestly believe, and I've always suggested this to my management, that we need to empanel a panel of coaches. Obviously, this gives you, puts you in your CRM funnel, Gaurav, about opportunities here. We need to have a panel of coaches who can, I'll use the Nobel Prize word, nudge people into behaviors, right? Some of the behaviors that typically we see are very tactical among sales managers, which are about, doing only focused on BBC, billing, booking, and collection, but, to do the little more of the qualitative work and nudging them and doing the reviews better, and that's something that we need coaches to do. I see a lot of requirement for coaches. Will I pay $200 an hour? Never. Or that in that range. So therefore, and especially in today's world. So therefore, we need to find a way in which we can use coaching principles, make people into better coaches, create that panel through a combination of external and internal. And I see a lot of opportunity to coach people for coaches.
Yeah, in fact, 2 days back, Anup and myself, we were discussing about something on the same lines as well. That why it's becoming more and more important for coaches and people who are in the mental health profession to deal with this pandemic times. So, Anupji, there's a question for you. What are those 4 changes we are gonna witness post lockdown? And now, which dimension the gentleman is asking, I don't know, but whichever you feel comfortable with, please
Well,
go ahead.
I mean, so we've discussed a lot of changes, of course. So I'm not going to repeat them. But at least one, taking off from what Krishna just mentioned, there is going to be a need for more coaching interventions. But my view is, given what we discussed earlier, cost constructs, more efficiency, more focus on outcomes, all leaders will need to become coaches. So I think that's going to be a fundamental mindset shift.
Yeah.
Coaching needs to be embedded in a leader. So that trait in a leader is going to classify whether a leader still survives or the leader's out of work. So that's going to become an hygiene. And
So,
to that extent,
so
that's going to be a massive change on leadership.
yeah. So, what do you think? What are the 3 action steps that a coach can take to serve clients during these times?
Coach as in the organization, or a coach from external?
Coach, as in it could be internal or external.
Well, like I said, if all leaders have to become coaches follow the principles of coaching, not rigor in terms of very hard jacketed, but then all the coaches will need to train and impart that coaching knowledge, skill set, aptitude to all the leaders. So that's where I believe coaching will play a big role, rather than the straight coaching which coaches come in and give inside the organization.
Yeah. So there are 2 questions. One I'm going to ask you, which is,
Can I take a shot on little more on this, this question, the 4 things and so on?
please do.
I'm not going to go on the coaching side. I'm going to say that for one, people are going to realize, and I hope, at the leadership level even more, that we have taken a lot from the world. It's time we stop taking, right? Which is, in terms of the kind of things we do to the environment and so on and so forth. That is number one, right? Number two, and as a corollary to that, is the fact that the whole world has been running only on shareholder driven values and not on stakeholder driven values, right? Shareholder means I have to quarter on quarter growth, profit maximization, growth at any cost, the Asura behavior, the Ravana behavior, right? So we need to, find out the Deva within us, and that is, and that will be an abject lesson for the millennials, because when they grow and become leaders, hopefully the world will be in better hands.
So since you're talking about Asura and the Deva, we are talking about different energies. We are talking about the warrior and the monk. So here is one question:
Yeah.
How should a leader handle and interact with the team members during the layoff discussions?
We've had a very recent, layoff is the most difficult thing, isn't it? I mean, however great a speech you give, layoff is a layoff, isn't it? I mean, there is this letter that the Airbnb CEO sent out, and it's all viral on the internet. 25% of his workforce he laid off, and he wrote a very nice, great mail, and everybody, wow, wow, and all that. But the fact of the matter is they are laid off, right? So I think forget that. That's going to happen. So somebody will do it in a very brutal manner. Somebody will do it, in a nice manner. But it's going to come, right? And I think we have to worry about ourselves. What do we need to? And here I'm talking to youngsters. I talk to my son, and I'm talking to people of that age. And you have to become multi-skilled now. You have to become multi-skilled. So my son, who is in the media business, is learning Python programming. Okay, he will learn artificial intelligence in some time, and a lot of it can be done over Coursera and over all of these courses. Anyway, are available free of charge now, right? So I think you should become multi-skilled. The day of the specialist is probably coming to a pause for some time till all of this settles down. Multi-skill. Number two, which is where your coaching comes in, is attitude, attitude, attitude. If I have to lay off 25% of the population, then I have identified them against others, you know. The guy who shows can do, who shows unbridled optimism, which cannot be faked, who shows a lot of enthusiasm, right? Those are the people we want on the team, isn't it? Rather than, you know, somebody is going to be cribbing and saying, you know, what is in it for me, you know, that. So if you look, if you start pointing fingers at people, look at your hand, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So fix yourself first is my suggestion. And for this, coaching does help.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And Anup, so that's the last question. Here is I'm asking you, what do you think? What's the impact of COVID-19 and this pandemic on share market? So what are your views on that?
Well, like everything else, uh, I think it's going to see the real levels, share market here and everywhere else, driven by greed and driven by unsubstantiated growth, is now coming back to what should be the norm. A little bit of what, like we saw, or maybe read somewhere, that when human beings stop consuming or started consuming only what they need, suddenly we are faced with economic recession, right? The same way, I think, on the stock market is just coming to where it should always have been and not raced ahead of itself. So on stock market, I think it's still stock market and everything else, including commodities. There is bottoming out still to be seen.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anup. Thank you so much, KG, for your precious time. I think people loved the discussion. I think it's a very, very fruitful discussion where we touched points on what's happening to the industries, what's happening to an individual, the way a leader should show up. And while we were discussing, you know, I think what's really important is, as both KG as well as Anup has already emphasized on this, it's very important for all of us to be human, to connect with people like human beings, and they will never prove you wrong. And these are the times which are the true test for our character. These are the times where it's going to expose things where what are the loopholes in your industry. I think thank you so much. Wonderful having you on this panel. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence here. And you have been as interactive as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all the good wishes and comments on the chat. I cannot personally respond to every one of them. 1 or 2 names I did call out. Munish, Dua. Thank you so very much and have a great day, great year ahead. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Anup sir.